Week! I have been waiting so long for Bread Week because bread is awesome. The recipe request was flatbreads. It had to contain yeast and it had to be savory. I chose to make naan because Indian food is one of my favorites and I wanted to make something I love to eat. My naan recipe is a little bit unconventional. It has thin slices of potatoes on top and it roasts a little bit. It's so good. So let's begin.
The dough is a simple combination of plain flour, a pinch of sugar, a pinch of salt, and some fast-action yeast. As you can see, I kept the salt and yeast separate. I did this because I don't want the salt to deactivate the yeast. I'm adding a small amount of plain Greek yogurt and some water. It took me about 2 days to come up with this recipe, and I just found adding a little bit of yogurt makes the naan more tender. This dough has been kneading for about 10 minutes, so I'm going to remove it and place it in a lightly floured bowl just so it doesn't stick, and then I'm going to let it prove for about 45 minutes. Before I put the dough into the bowl, I'm just going to fold it in on itself so all the creases are on the bottom. You really don't have to do it with this type of dough, but I just do it out of habit. Just covering it with some simple saran wrap or cling film will do. Now, I don't have a fancy proving drawer, so I just put it in my oven. The oven is turned off. I just turned the oven light on, and the heat from the light will warm it up slightly and help the dough rise. Moving on to my topping, I'm going to quickly show you what I do when I buy spring onions. I buy a lot of these at once because I don't like prepping them. What I do is chop them all up and put them in a bowl full of water. I don't know if you can see, but there are specks of dirt inside of spring onions and scallions. So to thoroughly clean it, I submerge it in water, rinse it, and strain it. I don't want to do this every single time I want spring onions or scallions, so I do this, pat it dry, and then freeze it so I can just take out a handful at a time and throw it into whatever I'm cooking. I also do this because the shelf life of spring onions are very short, so freezing it preserves it and keeps it fresh longer. And you can make this really cool sound. So peeling potatoes are the worst. That's my least favorite thing to do in the kitchen, but I wanted to show you something because there are a lot of people out there who don't know there's a feature on a peeler to remove eyes and unpleasant blemishes, so you don't have to cut those pieces out with a knife next time you peel a potato. And of course I had to make things more difficult for myself and use a mandolin. I haven't taken this thing out since July, back when I created this recipe, when I was creating it for the Great American Baking Show. It took me quite a bit to figure it out again, but you just have to slice and rotate, just keep repeating that to make the distinctive waffle cuts. So at the time, in my crazy mind, I thought the tiny holes would help cook the potatoes faster and keep it from making the naan soggy, so the steam could escape, but I'm no scientist, it's just a theory. However, I do know these are going to brown if I don't submerge them in cold water, so I'm going to go ahead and do that while I'm prepping my other toppings. I'm just going to melt some butter and add some Himalayan salt to it. You can add sea salt or table salt, it really doesn't matter. I'm just using Himalayan because this is what I have at home. The dough has doubled in size. I'm not looking for a really massive dough. This is perfect, so I'm going to sprinkle a dusting of flour on my table, press it down gently to release a bit of air, and cut it into 4 equal pieces with my bench scraper. Now I'm going to flatten it out a bit with the tip of my fingers and roll it out. I'm not looking for a perfect shape of any kind, but I'm aiming to make it a teardrop slash oval shape, or maybe like the ghost from Pac-Man. I don't know. They should all be different and have their own identity. I have a really hot skillet here. I'm drying off the potatoes so they don't create too much steam. I'm going to place the dough on the skillet and the potatoes will stick to it if you put them on immediately. You can see it bubbling up already. At this point, I'm going to apply my butter and salt mixture with a pastry brush, but only on the potatoes. I'm doing this so when I flip the naan over, the potatoes will roast a bit and have a beautiful golden brown crust on it. I really love all those bubbles. That's a classic trait in naan, but I'm going to push them down. If I were making regular naan without the potatoes, I would let the bubbles shine in all their glory, but Because my main objective is to roast the potatoes and keep them on, they're all going to be flattened. Sorry, Naan. You can brown this as long as you want, but it only takes about 2 minutes on each side. I want the texture of this naan to be slightly soft and chewy, so I'm going to take it off the skillet. Now I'm going to add a handful of scallions to the butter mixture and brush it on top. I'm going to repeat the process, and I just wanted to show you here that the potatoes are really stuck to the dough and it won't come off. I mean, unless I yank it off, but it's good. So this will happen. The butter has congealed. Instead of running to the microwave, you could just place it on your skillet and it'll melt in no time.
That's it for my signature flatbread. Next week I'll be making a really special bread sculpture. It has a little bit of history behind, okay, it has a lot of history behind it, but I'm really excited to do that one, so I hope you join me back for that. Thanks for watching.